Warm welcome to this lecture series on organizational behavior. We are in the 8th chapter, which is on interpersonal behavior at workplace. I am Dr. MP Ganesh from IIT Hyderabad. This is the quick outline of the chapter presentation. We'll start with defining what is interpersonal behavior. We will also talk about some concepts related to this, like psychological contract, trust, pro-social behavior, cooperation and conflict management. We'll spend considerable amount of time in the last topic, which is conflict management. Okay, if you remember, the entire course was divided into three parts. One, individual behavior at workplace. So factors influence an employee's behavior in workplace. So we looked at personality, motivation, perception, learning, attitude, emotions, things like that. So these are the factors which are related to an individual, an employee, which contributes to his or her performance or behavior in workplace. Now we are moving towards the next part, which is about interpersonal behavior. So interpersonal behavior means behavior between two individuals. How two people behave, or more than one person. Okay, so we will talk about concepts or theories related to interaction between more than one people. Okay, more than one person. So it can be friendship, it can be conflict, it can be cooperation. It can vary from very positive behaviors like pro-social behavior to very negative behaviors like deviant organizational behavior. So in fact, from this chapter, couple of other chapters will also talk about some of the important factors related to interpersonal behavior. So in this chapter, we are going to look at only few important factors related to interpersonal behavior, mostly from cooperation and conflict point of view. There will be other chapters following this in which we will talk about communication, other forms of interpersonal behavior. Okay. So like I said, interpersonal behavior in workplace can range from positive behaviors, which are called pro-social behaviors, to negative behaviors, which are called deviant organizational behaviors. Before understanding interpersonal behavior, we need to look at a very important concept related to interpersonal behavior, which is psychological contract. So what is psychological contract? If you would have heard of the term contract. So what is a contract? Contract is an agreement between two people or two parties, two entities. Usually contracts are legal contracts, or the contracts which we know are legal contracts. So contracts will specify do's and don'ts, what are the responsibilities and obligations of the parties involved in the contract and things like that. And legal contracts are written contracts which are authorized by a legal entity, maybe government or judiciary or some other body. So psychological contract is similar to these contracts, but only difference is psychological contracts are not written down. So there is nothing like a written document which says these are the things which are allowed between two parties who interact, or these are the responsibilities and obligations. So many times in social relationships there is no written contract, but there is an unwritten contract which binds the relationship. So this is what is psychological contract. And most of the times psychological contract is perceived. So like I said, it's not written down, but let's say there are two people in a relationship, friendship, let's say in the context of friendship, two people are involved in this friendship. A psychological contract in friendship will mean perception of what can be expected from the other person and what are the obligations which I have towards the other person. For example, I would expect my friend to be truthful, to be loyal, to reciprocate the help which I give to him or her. Similarly, my obligations, I perceive my obligations are more or less same. I will be truthful, I will be loyal, I'll be, I'll reciprocate the help which my friend does to me. So all those things are perceived. Many a times these perceptions between two parties can have discrepancies. What I mean to say is, I may expect my friend to do these kind of things. Probably I would expect my friend to also play the role of a advisor, but my friend may not feel that is an obligation in this relationship. My friend will think, no, this person is an adult, so I don't need to advise. He or she may not willing or voluntarily come and advise me, but I may feel, so this person is my friend, he has the obligation to advise me during my difficult times. So this discrepancy in understanding may sometimes lead to problems in the relationship, because I may expect my friend to come and talk to me when I am in trouble and help me resolve this, but my friend will think, no, this person is an adult, he or she will resolve it on his own, so why should I intervene? Okay, so this misperception or this discrepancy in perception, in the differences in the way this psychological contract is perceived in friendship, may lead to problems in the relationship. So many times this psychological contract is driven by or overpowered by the larger social norms. So when I say social norms, are the unwritten rules in the society. Okay, so social and cultural norms, a particular community in which we live or the particular social group in which we live, that group has some unwritten rules. So these unwritten rules contribute to this psychological contract. For example, a teacher-student relationship. Okay, so in a teacher-student relationship, this unwritten psychological contract is mostly in Eastern context. We expect teachers to also play the role of a parent, or the idea of guru means the guru is also a kind of a parent to the student. Okay, and the guru or the teacher also is expected to play the role of the mentor and also a coach. So in some social context, the role of a teacher is like very broadly defined. It includes many different roles. But in certain cultures, teacher is seen as, or the role of a teacher is defined in very specific responsibilities. So let's say in Indian context, so this is what is the role of teacher is defined. So if I am a student or if I am a teacher, if I am in a relationship between a teacher and a student, in a teacher-student relationship, if I am a teacher, I would expect these are my responsibilities and these are the obligations from the student, and it is other way around also. The student will think or will perceive, I can expect these things from the teacher. Similarly, these are the obligations from my side to the teacher. So the larger cultural factors, the larger cultural norms define the psychological contract in most relationships in that particular society. Okay. In organizational context, employee and employer, there is a kind of a psychological contract. There is obviously a legal contract also. When you join an organization, there are certain rules which bind you, written rules which bind you, and you are also you can also expect certain things from the organization in terms of your termination, rules related to termination, rules related to related to salary and things like that. So there are written rules, there are written contracts in organizational context, and there are also unwritten rules in terms of organizational context. So in organizational scenario, in organizational as a social context, the employee and the employer are bound by certain psychological contract. Okay, it's not just about the employer and the employee. In workplace, boss and the subordinate, or colleagues. So everyone, when they interact, there is some level of psychological contract which binds their relationship. So the psychological contract in the workplace can be looked at from two perspectives, or there are two different types of contract, psychological contract in workplace. The first type is transactional contract. So transactional contract is more of very specific give and take, and it is very narrowly defined. For example, in workplace between the boss and the subordinate, the transactional contract can be, okay, I define my performance in this way, and we both agree to the definition of what is good performance. So if I perform to that level, I should get a better performance rating, or I should get a better performance evaluation or a reward. So this is a very specific transactional contract, okay, where the give and take are very specifically defined, very narrowly defined, and both the parties to some extent agree to it. In relational contract, the focus is like very long term. It is not just about short term interaction, it's about long term interaction and also wide relationship. Okay, so a broad relationship. What do we mean by long term and broad relationship? So it's about, I expect my boss to be my mentor. I also feel my obligation is not just a subordinate, but also a follower in this leader member relationship or leader follower relationship. So I should support my leader at any cost. At the same time, my leader will ensure that I will grow in this organization. So these are like long term broad definition of a relationship and the contract which binds the relationship. Sometimes it can be combination of both. So I may start with a transactional contract towards my employer. Over a period of time, I understand this organizational culture encourages long-term relationship. So I may slowly define this relationship as a relational contract. It can happen other way around also. My value system would say I should establish a long-term relational contract, but the organization doesn't encourage long-term contracts, long-term psychological contracts. So I will learn that it doesn't work like this in this organization. I should define my relationships in terms of transactions. Okay, so my contract will become a transactional contract. Okay, one important aspect of any interpersonal relationship is trust. Okay, and there is a very strong connection between psychological contract and trust. So what is trust? Because any relationship, whether it is a written kind of a contract or an unwritten contract, most relationships are bound by trust. So what is trust? Trust is a confidence which we have on others in the relationship. Let's say there is a friendship between you and another person. You trust your friend. You trust your friend that he or she will help you when you are in trouble. You will trust your friend in terms of maintaining confidentiality. Okay. From where does this trust come from? From the psychological contract. Because this is the psychological contract which binds you and your friend. You would trust your friend in these areas. Okay. So you will have confidence in that particular person. Trust from a different perspective is also about depending on someone positively. So trust also means you depend on that person. You depend on the person for maintaining confidentiality. You depend on that person for helping you during trouble. You depend on that person for emotional support. Okay, so trust also involves depending on the other person. Because trust is not based on written contract, because if there's a written contract, there's no question of trust, because everything is like clearly written down and it is reinforced or it is governed by a third party like government or legal party, judiciary. So if somebody breaks a legal contract, you can go to the court or you can go to that third party who reinforces that contract. So there is no risk involved. You file a case. But in psychological contract, there is no written agreement. So trust is also about risk taking, because you feel that this psychological contract or this unwritten contract is very powerful and the other person will not break it. Okay, so you are taking a risk, and if that person breaks, you can't do anything except you will feel sad and you will feel being betrayed. Otherwise you can't do anything. Okay, so in that sense, trust is also risk taking. So there are different types of trust. One type of trust is incentive based trust. So which means you trust someone because there is some level of incentive to it. Okay, so in a relationship, especially in organizational context, if you trust someone, let's say you show trust towards your boss. Okay, you be loyal towards your boss because you trust that person. So there is a reciprocated advantage. That person will reward you in terms of bonus or in terms of higher performance evaluation to you, all those things. Okay, so there is some incentive in trusting the other person, that is incentive based trust. There is some in some contexts we trust people based on familiarity. Someone for many years, our neighbors, we know that family, they are our family friends, and that family for 20 years, so we trust them. For example, when we they will have our house key, one copy of the house key with our neighbors. We give one copy of the house key with our neighbors because we trust them. Why we trust them? We know them for many years. So trust based on familiarity. There is also trust based on similarity. So many times we trust people who look similar to us, or whom we think are similar to us. For example, when we travel in public transport like train or aeroplane, if somebody speaks our language, we tend to share our we tend to talk to them, isn't it? We tend to, maybe within a short conversation, we tend to share more information about us. Let's say you are in a foreign country and suddenly you meet someone, a stranger who's from your own state, who speaks the same language, who's similar to you in terms of language. We tend to trust them and talk to them as if they are our friends. Okay, so trust based on similarity. Trust based on social networks, which means the other person also belongs to the same social network or to the same social group which you belong to. For example, your friend's friend or someone who studied in the same college as yours. Let's say I am an IIT student and I meet someone from the same IIT but from a different batch. I tend to trust that person. Okay, so this trust based on social network. There's another trust which is called swift trust, which means quick trust. Quick trust happens when we feel this person has some credibility. For example, if somebody is a doctor, okay, if somebody has studied in a very reputed institute, or if somebody is a police officer, or if somebody is a teacher from a very reputed institute, professor from a very reputed institute, we tend to trust them, isn't it? For example, if somebody is from Harvard, so we believe that this person will have capabilities, so we are willing to trust them. Let's say a doctor from a very reputed medical college, whatever they say, we will trust them. Okay, so these are different ways in which trust is established in a relationship. Okay, So how to build trust in a relationship? Because trust is a very powerful binding force. When somebody trusts you or when you trust someone, we go to a very extreme level of committing ourselves to the relationship. Okay, so if you trust your, like I said, if you trust your neighbor, you are willing to give the house key to the neighbor. You know, you completely or blindly trust them and you are willing to do whatever possible within your limits. So how to build trust in relationship, especially in leadership, building trust between you and your subordinates or between you and your followers is very, very crucial. So how to build trust? Becoming trustworthy involves a lot of effort. People don't trust you immediately. Okay, you have to prove yourself over a period of time. Only then people will trust you. It takes a lot of effort, and it's very easy to break the trust also. You know, when you may take many years to build trust, but in one instance where you failed, people may lose trust on you. So it takes a lot of effort. Two, if you become trustworthy, it's a huge power. You know, you can control people's life. For example, great leaders, you know, whatever they say, their followers will blindly listen because, you know, they trust you and you have built that trust over a period of time. So being trustworthy is a huge power. At the same time, it's a responsibility. If someone trusts you, you are responsible for their well-being. You know, you are responsible for keeping that trust intact. Okay, trustworthiness is a virtue, which means being a trustworthy person is a good quality. It doesn't come by training. You know, you have to build that trustworthiness over a period of time. But at the same time, if you know certain skills, you can manipulate people and get their trust. You know, this is like Machiavellianism. If you remember, in one of those chapters we spoke about Machiavellianisms, Villainistic personality. So those people are able to manipulate others' trust and build trust easily. But in real sense, being trustworthy is a good quality which comes through your upbringing or, you know, your training. And very importantly, if you don't trust yourself, others won't trust you. So if you don't have self-confidence, if you don't have self-esteem, others will not trust you because your body language will show it. Okay, so you need to trust yourself that you are capable, you have leadership qualities. Only then others will trust you. Okay, so I'll stop here. In the next lecture, in the same chapter, we will talk more about trust and other areas of interpersonal relationships. Till then, take care. See you in the next lecture.